Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. Welcome, everybody.
Good to hear you back. Let's jump into the business moment to start, like we usually do.
Yeah. So I was going to my first NBA game of the season this week, and I saw the Timberwolves beat Oklahoma City. Really good game. You could tell, just this is our business moment. I'm just going to comment on it since it leads into it. That the teams like Oklahoma City and Cleveland and Boston and Houston that added a lot of pieces, like two or more pieces, it's going to take them a while to kind of get into who they are.
Right.
Because like Russ ended up with I think in a triple double. If he's not, he was like a rebound shy or something. But he was playing one of those games where he didn't shoot the first quarter, trying to get everybody involved and try to get them off like that. So until they get to the point where they're comfortable as to what they're going to do, it's going to take a while for these teams to adjust. But anyhow, SI.com the other day, and the only reason I'm probably aware of it is because while I was in Minnesota, the Timberwolves uniform was ranked the number one new uniform by this group called Crossover on SI.com. And so, I like the new uniform, but, some of the comments here, and it just seems like it was, this is it's opinion like everything else, but you think that in terms of trying to come up with something like this, you'd have a little bit of more than just opinion. Like you'd have, maybe you'd have 3 or 4 people voting on the uniforms, and one might have been a color expert, or one might have been a designer, or, whatever. And I don't know, it sounds like a couple of guys in the basement having a few beers. But the jerseys, the Thunder, the jersey are atrocious. The Thunder have had the worst uniforms in the league since their inception. When was the last time you saw something orange and blue and thought, I want that? When was the last time you saw actual Thunder and thought that looked orange and blue? That I get that. That's okay. But, the color scheme, blue is with the Oklahoma State flag, and there's orange in it from Oklahoma State, and there's a little red in it from Oklahoma, and there's white. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, and then the 27th uniform, or no, I take it back, 28 is the Spurs, which I think is a pretty classy uniform.
Very classy.
And they don't like that one because they don't like black and white, and just adding silver to it just makes it black and white.
So they also dislike the Nets jerseys?
They didn't like it. They don't like them. And the Mavericks ranks 25th because they don't like the fact there's white, black, and silver on the blue uniform.
Uh-huh. I see. Who was your favorite?
Orlando had some. This made sense to me. The Magic haven't quite let go of the pinstripes, but they want to look futuristic while trying to pull off the look. I missed the star in the logo, and I did always like the star in the logo. I thought that really set the Magic apart, and they kind of got rid of that.
Yeah. I've never been a big fan of the Magic uniforms.
But then, I'm a big fan of the Golden State Warriors uniform. I like it. I think it's blue and gold and white and blue and gold. It looks clean to me. I've always liked it. And they rank it 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think it's one of the better uniforms I've seen. I hadn't seen a new Sacramento logo, and they ranked that one 18th. And they don't like SAC on the front rather than Kings. And I got to admit, I don't like SAC either. I guess they're trying to copy Phoenix with the PHX. They ranked New Orleans uniform 17th. I like all the colors involved here. They just don't come together. And I'm not sure if that's true or not. I love the lettering because it looks like the wrought iron in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And the gold and the red on navy blue, I think, looks fine. So that's my opinion. They rate the Knicks uniform 16th. These are classics, which I can respect, but the Knicks are paying a severe tax for being an awful team to watch, and how long it be bad before you should move away from tradition. See, there's just really nothing in that review.
No, nothing at all.
Then you read the Cavs uniforms, which I think is almost impossible to do because the Cavs have as many uniforms as Oregon.
I was about to say, the Cavs have a different jersey like every night for like 3 weeks in a row.
I know. So I can't figure that one out. shade of blue. I don't know. Then they ranked the Celtics 12th, and that's like the most classic uniform in the NBA.
Yeah, the green and white.
Yeah, I just don't think you can do a lot. I don't think you'd be real critical of that one. I'm sorry. I just don't think you're going to ever really change that one, right?
No, it's a great looking jersey.
Tried and true, no reason to go crazy here. And then the Lakers is right after it, one spot up. And for the Lakers, they say another classic, though this one could afford to be even more retro. So, again, that's the comment.
And NBA jerseys are tough because they, like you said, each team does literally wear like 15 jerseys apiece during the course of a season. So which you know.
Yeah, because they've got the city jersey this year they're trying to do. Let me get to the top couple and we'll talk about those.
Okay.
So Minnesota's number one. And I like it. I like the shade of blue. But the thing they like the best, they say the stripe across the chest is a bold move and it makes everyone look a little extra yoked. I'm mostly commending the Wolves for trying something with this design, stepping out a little bit. I don't know. If you're going to go on a stripe to rate a uniform number one, that to me is a reach.
A bit of a reach for sure.
But this is out there. But again, I bring it up because, it affects what you're going to buy. I mean, if people actually took this stuff seriously. I mean, I think you have to buy what looks good on you and what colors you like and everything else. But I was surprised that this was number one. It's a new uniform's clean. Now, they don't have access to some of the uniforms that haven't been worn yet.
Right.
And I did see one of the Minnesota uniforms that's kind of like a Seattle Seahawks, green and blue.
Okay.
And that one looks pretty good, but they're not going to wear that one until Black Friday.
I think the Milwaukee Bucks have my current favorite jersey.
And the Milwaukee Bucks are rated 2.
Okay. I like green and purple are my two favorite colors, so.
Yeah, but they're not green and purple anymore.
They have, it depends on, again, they have 15 jerseys, and a couple of them are green and purple. But, it's like we said, that, they wear so many jerseys over the course that you have your home, your away, your alternate home, alternate away, throwback, alternate throwback, Christmas. I think there's just so many. I'm missing like half of them too, so it's tough.
Well, number 3 is the Portland Trail Blazers, and they say the stripes here have always been awesome. Remember that stripe that goes across the front, kind of an angle?
Yeah.
And the Blazers have to be one of the league leaders and people who aren't fans of the team wearing their gear, which is probably pretty true, right?
I'd say so. Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably true. I find myself in a city, we spend a lot of time, obviously, in Pittsburgh. And in Pittsburgh, you don't see very many non-Pittsburgh teams things.
Yeah.
And New Orleans is a very similar city where so everyone here is pretty much rocking Pelicans gear, Saints gear, all New Orleans stuff all the time. So.
Yeah. So that's my business moment. So it's just a new thing. All the NBA uniforms come up with Nike. I know. On part of my business moment too. One of the big criticisms right now is the product is really hard to get. Nike's really behind on producing, and there's a lot of teams, a lot of players changing and everything. So I'm sure they waited till the last minute to start putting together their stuff. But there's a lot of criticism that's really not ready, not real available for the fans yet. But I like the Timberwolves stuff I've seen with a little neon in it. Looked pretty good, so I've enjoyed it.
And I always feel like sometimes jerseys on a court and on the TV look cooler than they do. They look better than they would in real life. It's almost like fashion model runway stuff, where it's like it looks good on them in that moment, but sometimes on a fan in the middle of the street, it's not a great look.
Yeah, it could look differently.
But I think I have the Seattle Texans game on in the background, and I think the Seattle uniforms look great on TV. They really pop.
Yeah.
And the Timberwolves are a similar thing. I kind of like that. That's cool. But
speaking of the Texans, did you see anything or did you learn anything?
I did not learn anything. We were prepping the show. I saw Deshaun Watson throw a 60-yard touchdown, and they're up 7-0. Their uniforms all appear to be intact. So I'm not sure what exactly they did in response to the Texans owner, who I guess we're going to talk about for a second, came out and he compared the play. Well, he denied referring to the players, but I don't know who else he was saying he was referring to. but saying we can't let the inmates run the prison.
Yeah, which is funny, Jason, because I've always heard the inmates, but it's never been prison, it's asylum.
Right. That's what I always
That's
thought,
the way
too.
I've always heard it said. I've never heard someone say the inmates are running the prison. I've heard the inmates are running the asylum, which is not as, it's also not flattering when you're talking about your players. But I think it would have been a slightly better faux pas than saying prisoners.
I think so.
It would have been good, but it would have been better than prisoners.
Right, because like you said,
impacts that slave mentality and everything else. It's a really bad choice of words from an 80-plus-year-old man, I guess.
Right, and again, it's comments like that make you. It just reinforces everything that the protests have sort of stood for.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the fact that owners think of them as their property, and it's absurd. I mean, and it's especially like I guess sometimes people in their 80s don't realize that pretty much everything you say, do is going to be consumed publicly, whether you want it to be or not. That's just the world we live in.
Mm-hmm. But you know what, Jason? It's funny. It's funny we talk about this. Our players' property, but when you talk about somebody buying your team, they look at the players as assets, and assets are just a way of categorizing property.
Right.
So it's always been that way. It's always been this financial context that you got. How good are the 40 players under contract before I buy your team? Whatever it is.
It's true. It's very true. And I guess that would be the same with a company. Like, you want to know what sort of assets the company has. The employees are assets across the board. But again,
I get your point. It's the way you phrase it and the way you describe it is not the best way to do something.
No. And as I was talking to you earlier, I know we can't go with internet comments because it's a small group of people that have a lot of anger and very little time, or too much time on their hands. Mm-hmm. But it seems there's a lot of people that they were referring to the players as inmates after this, and they seemed, I've been seeing that thing going around on Facebook and social media where people are like, these are all the players that have been arrested. That's why he said, and just sort of defending him, the Texans owner, which I thought was, again, absurd. Because again, I've seen different stats from different companies, so I don't really know which one you can believe or not believe.
Yeah.
But I think just like with police officers or priests, it's once again a small number of players who have done, criminal activity, and it's not that far off from overall society as far as people with criminal records and everything else. So it's, it's an unfair statement to make, and it's an ignorant statement to make. And again, it just compounds a problem that is already there.
So I went online so we could talk about this since we're talking about the Texans. Houston Texas players kneel in protest before the game versus the Seahawks.
Okay.
And many members of the Houston Texans protested during national anthem by kneeling. So nothing out of the ordinary, just everybody kneeling.
Yeah, and as
we
learned,
they didn't go stripping the sticker off the helmet, and they didn't do anything that would have been different than what's been going on all along. Except it looked like the overwhelming majority of them knelt.
Right, and again, they're playing really well today so far. I know it's only halfway through the first quarter, but they have the ball in scoring position again, already up 7-0 on Seattle in Seattle, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this effect. Sometimes things like this galvanize a team, and it makes them, but at the same time, it's just a weird situation we're in. And I know that Kaepernick has finally been invited by the NFL to something, not a job, obviously, but to come to the meeting.
Come to the meeting and talk. So they're giving him a chair at the dinner table.
Right.
We'll have to see how that goes.
And I don't know what their meaning for that is. If they, is it just like a PR stunt, or are they actually going to listen to him?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because on some level,
good question.
It looks like it's a nice way for them to be like, see, we didn't blackball this guy. We just don't like him as a football player, but we're going to listen. It's a very tough situation. I don't really know what to think of that. This whole season is really getting, like we talked about last week with the sponsors. Every week it's not talking about football.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's talking about, calling players inmates and more protests and more, it's, again, not talking about football, not talking about great plays. It's been injuries and protests all year. It's pretty much been the only topics for the NFL. And it hasn't had quite the fun of the NBA, where the NBA is about, the worst thing they talked about probably is we just talked about just now, the uniform.
Yeah, and I took a picture the other night. I didn't tweet it out yet. And it was all the players at attention for the anthem, all standing.
Yeah.
And just, it's funny that in the NBA it was a non-story. And I guess what I would say is you kind of have to wonder, is it because the commissioner of the NBA and the teams and everything had the foresight, had the opportunity, based upon the NFL fiasco, to learn and plan what they should do? Or is it because that maybe the players in the NBA don't feel like property or assets? They feel like partners. And, the NBA has that revenue sharing model where the players get 57 cents out of every dollar.
Yeah.
So it's a different model. It's a different economic model. And if that's truly how the revenue is divided, then you are really a partner, right?
It's true. And I think the NBA's owners, you definitely have more new blood owners than you do in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
I think you have some.
And younger owners, too.
You have younger owners. And again, I think the NFL, the way they've handled it has probably been great for the NBA to watch how it goes for both the owners and the players. And then I think, when you have a team that's, 14 men, 15 men deep, I think it's a lot easier to bring everybody together and have a conversation. Where everyone's going to get a chance to speak and be heard, and maybe that makes it a little easier when it's as opposed to 55-man active roster, 80-man football teams. If the owner brings them in to talk, it becomes more of a lecture as opposed to with an NBA team, you could bring them all into a conference room and just everybody could talk and be heard, and maybe feel a little more respected. And again, like you said, they have a revenue sharing model, so they realize look, this is bad for business. It's bad for us, and maybe there's another way we can continue to fight the good fight on the other side without affecting our bottom line. So that could be a big part of it.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
And while all this is going on, we have a pretty exciting World Series that, again, as baseball has been for the past few years, kind of seems a little bit buried behind a lot of these other sports stories.
It kind of is, and it's particularly interesting since one of the markets is LA.
One of the markets is LA. Houston's a big market that, obviously was in the news for some, tragedy this year. And you've got some just fantastic Hall of Fame talent players playing, Kershaw came out and threw great. Jose Altuve is a joy to watch.
Absolutely a joy to watch. Absolutely. And a lot of the Houston guys are a joy to watch. And the funny thing is, if we talked about the 2014 issue of Sports Illustrated that says your 2017 world champions, the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
They called it. They called it in 2014. And then the comment this week was they were doing the process before the 76ers.
Oh, yeah. But, this World Series in general, it's tied 2-2. They've been really competitive games. You've seen a couple pitching gems. You had 8 home run outbursts that went into extra innings.
Today's a very pivotal game. It's Game 5 is really a pivotal game because it's the Astros' last home game. I'm sure they were hoping to win all 3 games in Houston, but whoever goes to LA up 3-2, it's tradition says that's the winner. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, and again, it's been a great series, but I feel like it hasn't always been the top story each day, or if it is the top story, it's the top story for a very short amount of time, and it's not part of them.
No, and unfortunately, the Fall Classic, the October Classic, is really now the November Classic, and cause it's the last part of October, early November, and everything else, college football. There's more things going on right now than there were. I remember when growing up in 1960 when the Pirates won the World Series. That was October 13th, Game 7, so 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I know we didn't have the wild card games, and then we have all these divisional things, which you could argue are better. But yeah, I'd still love to see fewer regular season games and play the game in good weather.
Definitely.
But the weather's not a hassle when you're playing indoors in Houston and you're playing in LA. So, except when it's 100 degrees, I guess, in LA.
Right, and like this weekend, World Series weekend, you've got Halloween, the NFL, college football, the NHL. I mean, it's
NBA.
NBA.
You get way too much stuff going on. But you could argue that about the American sports scene. Maybe we have too much going on all the time. So it's hard to really get your share of anything. I mean, three undefeateds fall yesterday.
Yeah. It's true.
And I mean, that was a packed schedule yesterday. I mean, all the games at 3:45 yesterday were amazing.
But I would encourage people that if you do like baseball a little bit, try to catch at least one or two of these last couple games because it's been a great series and hopefully it continues to be one.
Agreed. And for me, being a Pittsburgh fan, I mean, I was shocked. And, you know, your mother made me feel I should be nicer thinking about Charlie Morton. I mean, he was hideous in Pittsburgh. But Charlie Morton, you could arguably pitched the two best games of his life in these last two series.
Oh, without a doubt.
He pitched 3 hits last night, 1 run.
Yeah, he's been lights out, which is just, again, as a Pittsburgh fan, it's...
And people were sending me texts. That's Charlie Morton. Wait, that's Pittsburgh Charlie Morton.
It's the same guy.
And yep, that's what it is. So, I don't know.
But again, you get out of that situation into a new situation, and you know.
Yeah, maybe he has the right pitching coach for who he is right now, and maybe he doesn't have that feeling of going out there at a place where he's not had success. He went for a fresh start in a new place, and they embraced him, and that's what happens.
Yeah, it's great. And speaking of great starts and everything else for new people, the Orlando Magic, who everyone thought would be just as bad as they've been every year as they continue to make somewhat baffling roster moves. And again, it's early, but they're off to a 4-1 start, and they beat the Cavs and the Spurs already. Soundly.
I think that's one thing that surprised me, Jason. I've seen more 30-point victories than I've seen. I've seen more in a couple weeks than I've seen in months of previous seasons.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, we had a lot of reshuffling with some of the top teams. Boston suffered that major. They lost their biggest free agent move, went down with that horrific injury. Cleveland is notoriously starting slow. I mean, I feel like they do that every year. I guess the shocking one would probably be Golden State. Or maybe they just, spent too much time partying this summer and now they're going to wake up and start playing well. But because they've lost.
They know it's all about May and June.
Yeah.
My stat, Timberwolves have beaten Oklahoma City twice and lost to the Pistons by 30.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy.
And both the Thunder games are really good games.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We'll see how it all plays out. So I loved my game the other night. I love seeing a really first-class quality NBA game in Minnesota, which I think I haven't seen since KG days. And it was a great experience, and watching those two teams play, it was a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah. I'm going to go off on a weird one that I never ever talk about, but it's golf.
Whoa.
Specifically, the Tiger Woods talk. Again, he's apparently showing videos of him hitting, drives with no pain down the field, and he looks good again. And I know golf, you can technically have a career till you're 50 and still compete. My thought on Tiger Woods, and again, I've never really been a big fan in general, but I sort of feel like what he did when he came in, he was doing things that other players simply weren't doing, as far as the health and the nutrition. And he came in as a better, he had been playing since the time he was a little, he was one of those kids that like his dad made him a golfer from the time he was like 2. He was on those shows as a little kid putting the ball at like 3 years old.
Yeah,
so he was so he was sort of part of this generation of, I'm going to pick a sport for my child. That's the only sport they're going to play. And he was sort of the first person that really brought, legitimate health and fitness to golf. And I know the legend was that, he just scared play. I never quite understood the terrifyingness of it, but I just feel like even if he came out now, that he changed the game so much for everybody that he wouldn't be as dominant. Like now all these guys have seen his playbook and that's what they've done. These are kids that have been, had private golf coaches just like he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's going to be harder to have a Tiger. Because I think sometimes it's about It's obviously about the individual, and he was obviously a fantastic and amazing talent. But it's also
Yeah, but
timing.
golf is so mental.
Right.
So yeah, he can hit a golf ball again, great. But is he mentally prepared to play golf in a very competitive environment? That's what I want to know.
Right. Because I'm not, again, I don't want to take anything away from the guys that golfed before Tiger Woods. But
No,
he clearly, he was the first of sort of that generation of kids that grew up, as you're going to get private coaching. This is the only sport you're going to play. We're going to take your health and fitness. I mean, obviously, it comes with hard work. His hard work is obviously a huge part of it, and his individual talent
right.
is a huge part of it. But if he came into the golfing world today, I think it's just going to be tougher for there to be another dominant player, because I think everybody has those same advantages now that they didn't maybe have before.
Well, let's see how it plays out. I mean, it's just they've been looking for. Nobody has dominated or really won to the level he's won. So I mean, it's been wide open, and maybe we're never going to have one guy come out and win all his tournaments again or be like that. But golf misses him because he was the gate would come out when he was there, and the TV ratings would go up. And as exciting as some of these other guys are, like I'm a huge Ricky Fowler fan, and I think Ricky's kind of enjoying the watch, but he doesn't win. And he's not driven people out there. And Jordan Spieth, same thing. They're not Tiger Woods.
No. They probably never will be. But
yeah. So I'll get back to Minnesota so I can talk about my food moment, Jace.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, and I'm calling it the Jason Burger because you like your burgers plain. So here you go. In Minnesota, I went in Target Center, and Target Center food has all been revamped. And they have a stand called Parlor Burger after one of the restaurants in downtown Minneapolis, the Parlor Bar. And it's $17, and it's 2 patties, cheese on a toasted brioche bun. And that may not sound like $17, but I'll sit here and say, I don't think I've ever had a better cheeseburger in my life, ever. And that's all. And I thought I'd take a bite and then go put something on my sandwich. And it's not, by the way, it's not an option. You can't get anything on your sandwich there. That's how they serve it. It's meat and cheese and bread. But I got to tell you, and there's 4 of us that ate them, and we all said the same thing. It was amazing. And when you buy, you're going to spend $17 for a hamburger, or you're going to spend more than $10 or $12 for a hamburger at a sporting event. This one I would go back and buy multiple times. It's that good.
Wow. It's burger in its pure form, not plain form, pure form.
Pure form. And so I tweeted out that my best sporting venues, my outdoor venue for best food is a tie between Petco Park and Citi Field. But my indoor is Target Center. And I got to tell you, when I worked at the NBA, Target Center was the worst food. And this year they updated and upgraded everything and changed it all around. They have a chef overseeing the food process. I got to tell you, they've gone from worst to first. My only criticism is they don't sell any ice cream in the building.
Huh.
They sell froyo, but I don't count that as ice cream.
No, definitely not.
No.
That's outstanding. I had a dessert moment today. Is my food moment.
Okay.
Down the street from me, there's a new place called Shake Therapy, and you walk in. It's all white walls. All the counter staff are dressed like doctors. And it's a $10 shake, just so people know, get the sticker shock out of the way. Because I know for some people, again, like the $17 burger, but you're going to get a lot. So the first thing you do is they have about 20 flavors of ice cream that becomes the base of your shake. And they make it in the old metal tins, just like the cool, stainless steel. Pick your shake flavor. And then while they're scooping that out, you go to your cup. And the first thing they do is they have, it's like caramel, Nutella, peanut butter, all these different things. They'll scoop around the side of the cup on the outside.
Uh-huh.
And it's your base on the outside of your cup. And then they have about 15 different things they'll dip that into. Chocolate chips, cocoa pebbles, all sorts of bizarre sorts of things. So that goes on the outside. So you have a little rim, like a fancy drink.
Like a margarita.
Like a margarita. Then
this is wild looking.
Yeah. And then you have inside syrup. And before they pour the shake in, they have vanilla, chocolate, caramel, and they put a little swirl on the inside of your shake, of the shake cup. Then they pour your shake in, then you get your whipped cream, and then you go to your giant topping. And your giant topping can be a popcorn ball, an entire whole donut, chocolate bark, a Pop-Tart. It's a crazy, it's a monstrous full-time dessert if you're going to eat a dessert. But it's a fun process, and it's a really good shake.
Okay, so what did you select?
Well, this is going to make me sound like the kind of person that would get a plain cheeseburger. I, of course, went with a cookies and cream base for my ice cream because it's my favorite.
Okay.
I got the caramel on the outside with chocolate chips.
Okay.
I got the vanilla swirl, the whipped cream, and then because it's Halloween, I actually got plastic spiders in the top of my shake. Just because I honestly went in there, I just thought it was a shake place, so I wasn't really ready to have a donut stuffed in the top of my milkshake. But that wasn't.
No, I wouldn't want a donut stuffed on top of my milkshake, and I love donuts.
I know, that's it. I thought that was a bit much, but yeah, the guy was like, he's like, you sure you don't want it? They just had a little thing of I'm like, I'll just get a couple plastic spiders. I'm like, it'll look good for the picture. So
how was the ice cream itself?
The ice cream is really good. Like, they make all the ice cream homemade, and it's really fancy, crazy looking flavors.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's right next to the Camella Grill. So you can get lunch or breakfast, and then you'll have a shake.
Oh, is it way out there on the streetcar line?
It is.
Okay, cool.
Right on Carrollton.
Okay. All right, I finished reading The Snowman.
And
I really liked the book. And I decided there was no way you could do that book in 2 hours.
No.
So I'm not even going to bother going to the movie.
There just isn't. I mean, I that's the same thing when I read half the books that I read. I'm like, you could do this as a mini-series.
You can't do it.
Right.
I mean, that book it's a good book. It's a good read. It's just way too complicated to make them. You'd lose the audience. You could never do justice to the book. So I'm not going to go see The Snowman.
Right.
So the thing I'm looking forward to now is in a couple weeks, I'm going to go see the remake of Murder on the Orient Express, which is a great Agatha Christie mystery book. And the movie's out in 2 weeks. So I'm going to see that.
And that does seem like a book, having read both the book and seen the original film. You can do that.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's one that can stand the test of time because it's just how the characters are. It's so character driven that's what's going to drive it. So,
but that one you can do in a 2-hour movie. You can do it justice, as we've seen.
And I'm looking forward to my trip to Stillwater for the Bedlam football game on Saturday. My first ever Oklahoma State football game. Although I've been to Bedlam and other sports, never in football, because OU fans just make me puke. They're like Patriot fans. I just can't handle them. But I think I deserve. I want to go because I think Oklahoma State has a legitimate chance to win. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And all my listeners, I'm just putting my heart out there. I hope I'm not wrong.
That's really all you can do.
But my food moment next week will probably be the Hideaway Pizza, which is my favorite place in Stillwater to eat. Or it will be Eskimo Joe's bacon cheese fries, which are amazing. Unless I make it to the House of Gravy in Oklahoma City for breakfast. So I got a lot of things to look forward to. One of my favorite places to eat is the Hearty Food in Oklahoma.
It is quite delicious.
Good comfort food.
Yes. A follow-up, I finished Mindhunter, the David Fincher show I was looking forward to last week. Overall, a pretty good show. A little creepy and disturbing at times. I guess my main criticism is that the lead actor is a little bit weak. And you spend a lot of time with him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little hit or miss as far as that goes. But watching the process, and the coolest thing that I saw with the process is, it took a lot for the FBI to decide that they wanted to pursue this sort of angle. They were all about just getting them off the streets. And of course, the famous line from the trailer is, how do you stop crazy if you don't understand crazy? Which is sort of what got them to start the behavioral sciences thing and sort of figure these things out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
It does. And then they bring in an academic, and she tells them about how to write papers and publish books and do all the sort of academia stuff that I'm sure you can appreciate. And then they go out and they try to talk to cops, and they realize that they need to redefine the vernacular, because when it's written academically, no one can understand what they're actually saying.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of the process of going through all that sort of stuff. And I guess I almost would have liked it as almost a documentary, based on the stuff that I seem to enjoy out of it. But they are setting it up. They are setting it up for a second season. We're going to London
in a couple weeks. I'll make sure it's all loaded. I'm like, it's an Amazon thing, right?
No, that's a Netflix thing.
Netflix thing. Okay, I'll make sure I get my laptop when we go.
Yeah, that's a Netflix original.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I was really looking forward to releasing all the Kennedy documents this week, but I guess we didn't release them all.
No, we did not.
But I've not changed my mind in 54 years. I don't think he did it by himself. So I'm not changing. And I think there's enough out there just to fuel my fire a little bit more.
Agreed. And it's much more fun that way.
Absolutely.
At the very least.
So next week we'll be talking about the World Series champion. We'll be talking about another week of college football.
NFL football.
Any changes in the NBA. Talk about our NFL. Look forward to the Steelers game tonight.
I was like, that's my biggest look forward to moment is watching Steelers tonight in prime time.
In prime time, and then going into their bye week.
I know. And in Steeler news, since we're near the end of the podcast and people can turn it off, they don't want to hear it. I liked what Tomlin did with Martavis Bryant. He shot his mouth off week after week, and he's like, look, you're not playing this week. You're going to be on the scout team, and we'll reassess moving forward. He's a major talent, and I would love to see him get on the same page and just be the deep threat. Because I feel like, as a Steeler fan, as we watch these games, the offense is finally starting to get going a little bit. They're nowhere near where they should be based on the talent on the paper and how long they've been together as a unit. But it looks like they were finally starting to get there, and maybe if Martavis Bryant had been a little more patient, those balls would have started to come his way.
Well, we'll now have to wait till after the bye week, unless he's traded by Tuesday.
I don't know what you can get, because like I said, he's already had 2 drug suspensions. He's already been gone for a year. So his next suspension, he's Josh Gordon. He's out of the league.
Yes, but you know who's inquired about him?
The Patriots.
That could ruin my day, my week, my month, and my football season.
If they get LeGarrette Blount the year before, 2 years ago, to help them win the Super Bowl, and then they would get Martavis Bryant cannot go to the Patriots.
No.
The only place I want to see him is in like San Francisco.
Kevin Colbert, if you're listening to this, don't do that. Don't pull that trigger.
Because you don't want to.
Don't do that to us.
No, please. Again, he doesn't make that much money. Just make him a healthy scratch every week if you're that mad at him. He's too big of an asset, especially this year of all years. There's no dominant team. You're 5-2 right now. You're in first place in the AFC. You've got a legitimate Super Bowl chance, especially if you can keep this formula going. Do not lose an asset.
If you trade him, I'd love to see him as a 49er or a Ram.
But next year.
Yes.
This year, I would love to see him actually contribute a little bit. Even if it's just being a decoy running deep balls, taking the top off of defense. That's fine.
Well, hopefully they'll show Juju shoes tonight because he's having a tribute to getting his bike back on these shoes.
And he is becoming Pittsburgh's most beloved athlete since Hines Ward. Very quickly.
He's likable. All right, everybody, have a great week. We'll look forward to speaking with you and you listening to us next week. Take care.
All right. Till next week.